Today is December 20th, 2023, and we're here in San Carlos, California, USA. I'm here with Ann Weiss, and I am Anne Gren Saldinger, interviewer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is December 20th, 2023, and I'm Anne Gren Saldinger, interviewer, and I'd like you to please introduce yourself, your full name.
I'm Anne Marie Weiss.
And that is your full name. Can you spell your last name?
Weiss as in Sam.
Thank you. And what was your name at birth?
It was Anna Marie Gerstel, Gerstel.
And have you had any other names?
Actually, I had my birth father was Blott, Blott, but that wasn't very long. My mother got divorced when I was very young. I don't really remember.
And you never used that name?
I did not use that name. Ever.
And you had mentioned a story about your name.
My name, when my parents made their citizenship here after we got here after 5 years, I guess I was 14 or 15, I said, can you put my name in half, make it Anne Marie? And they did. But they didn't like it, much to their chagrin, like I told you. And at home, they still called me Anna Marie. And it's like, oh my God, stop. I wouldn't answer. But my little sister called me Anne. So then finally they started calling me Anne. But it was just too German for me. I didn't like it. I just took this position. I don't like anything German. I called them mom and dad. I didn't call them Mutti and Vati, which was German. So I just took this whole position like, we're not German, we're American. Even at that age when I was still a teenager.
And tell us, when were you born?
When was I born? 1936 in Breslau, Berslau, I believe.
And what?
January
what is your
12th.
Actual birthday? So that makes you how old?
I'm going to be 88 in a couple of weeks. It's just hard to believe.
That's great. So Breslau at that time was part of what country?
Silesia. And don't ask me to spell that. I don't know. I am not sure. But it's now part of Russia.
And Silesia at that time, was that part of Germany?
Germany, yeah. My parents were very proud Germans. They never thought this could happen. You know, even toward the end, they still didn't think it was going to happen. I think it took my father and my uncle going to concentration camp on Kristallnacht for them to really realize, oh yeah, this is happening. We better prepare to leave.
Yeah, we'll hear more about that.
Really?
Can you tell me your father's name?
My stepfather, Harry, it was Heinz Gerstel.
And he
later they got married still in Germany. And you know, we went to China then, but they got married in Germany still in, trying to think, they got married in, oh my God, I can't remember the date all of a sudden. since my heart attack, I have trouble with things sometimes remembering, but I just
That's
can't
okay.
remember right now.
Yeah, may come to you. Um, and what did you call him
I
at that
called him,
time?
and then I called him Fatih.
Mhm,
That's father.
mhm. And did you know his parents?
I did. His father was in the First World War, and was deaf from that, and his mother had died in childbirth, and his father had married again. And I don't really remember them. I was 3 when we left Germany, and she was seemed to be nice. I mean, from what I remember. And I looked for their picture, but I couldn't find it. And her name was Dorothea, and my sister was named after her. And she was nice, like a real grandmother, because I never had grandparents that I remember, because my mother's mother died when my mom was 9, and her father died when she was 19, so no grandparents. And then
So
his
you
parents,
had no maternal grandparents
right.
only.
And then my father, Heinz, mother and father died, and they lived through the war in Treblinka, and then they wanted him to send food after the war, while we were in China. And we did send it. I remember him saying, "We're not going to have a lot of money. We're not going to have a lot of food because we have to send food to my parents." And I'd never seen my dad cry, but they never got the food. The Russians intercepted it, and she wrote him this really mean letter. I remember him reading it to us, and he was crying. It was so sad. I mean, sad to see a father cry if you've never seen it before. And then he sent some more food, but by that time they had both passed, and he never got over that.
So that was Dorothea, and what was your grandfather's name?
George and Dorothea, Dorothy.
And family name Gerstel?
Yes. But that was sad, even now it makes me want to cry, because I don't really remember them at all, but I heard my dad and mom talk about them, and it's so sad that they never got this box of food that was, we could have used, but they never got. It's a big memory in my life still,
Mhm.
especially now if I waste food, which I do. So, but I remember my life, if you want me to tell my story, I remember my life starting at what I remember when we left Germany, or maybe should start Kristallnacht.
Well, can I just
Yeah, oh, sure.
backtrack just for a moment? So I just wanted to ask you if you can describe any memories you might have from your home. I know you were very
In
young.
Germany?
In Germany,
No.
in Breslau.
Just I remember what my mother told me. I don't remember anything because I was only 2.5, 3, so I don't remember anything from then.
Yeah,
I have no memories, just
Any
the memories she
toy?
put in my head.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And what did she tell you?
She told me that she was very well-to-do, because her father was well-to-do, and she inherited all, her and her brother. She and her brother inherited all the money, so they were well-to-do in Germany. And, I had a nice life when I was little. And and then she met my father and married him, and they had a good life. And, but I don't recall any of that. I don't know if I had good life or bad life, I don't know. But then, when things went bad in Germany, they still didn't believe it. They couldn't believe this could be happening. Until they got arrested, her brother and my father, Heinz, I keep saying Harry, but then he was Heinz, got arrested at the same time on Kristallnacht, and they went to Buchenwald for 6 weeks. And
do you remember what they told you about that? Or?
No, apparently she just told me he went away. I mean, what I understand at not even 3. And I guess we didn't go out much to see the devastation on what happened. So I really don't remember any of that. But then when he came back, my father survived concentration camp really well because he was, in the gymnasium. He was always exercising, and he had a motorcycle, and he knew some of the guards, and the guards would give him a piece of sausage or a piece of chocolate because they were in the gymnasium too. This is the story I heard. I mean, I'm just repeating what they told me. But my uncle, who was a studious guy and never went to the gymnasium or did any of these things, he did not survive well. He cried when they came near him or shook, and so he got beat up. And my father tried to take care of him, but it was hard. So my uncle came home like a broken guy and didn't do well in the concentration camp. And my father was okay. So my uncle got a passport or whatever they got to go to England after all this happened, and we couldn't get anything. We had to go to China because my mother had enough money so we could get, this is again what I'm told, we got tickets for Shanghai. And I asked my mother, as I got older, I'm kind of waving back and forth, why we couldn't go to America when we had so many relatives in America. And she told me later on that they didn't like Heinz. They didn't approve of him, so they wouldn't send affidavits. Okay, got it. So I never liked my relatives. So we went to Shanghai. That was the only place that was open where you could go without an affidavit. And I think I told you we went on a luxury liner called the Gneisenau. Again, I don't know how to spell it. I think Leslie might. And it was apparently a beautiful luxury liner, a German ship.
So before you got to the ship,
my mother packed up.
She packed everything up.
They packed up and they got me, she said, again, she told me they got me clothes till I was 6 years old. And they bought cameras and things you could sell because they say in China you could sell a lot of stuff. But never got there. The Germans or whoever confiscated everything. Just got what was on our back and the one suitcase we had.
So
and I think
prepared
yeah.
shipment, which
So
you never received.
We never received any of it. We had one big suitcase. That was our table in China for the next 8 years. Our dining room table, kitchen table, whatever you want to call it.
The suitcase, sir.
The big suitcase. It was like a big trunk. And that was it.
Were there any toys, a doll, or anything like that went with you?
You know what? I don't remember that. I know for I guess it was maybe my 4th birthday, my father took me out because Phyllis, my best friend, asked me, the one who lives a couple of doors away, what was my most memorable present I ever got. And I said, on my 4th birthday, my father took me out and bought me a doll carriage and a doll. And that was my most memorable birthday present.
And that was in Shanghai?
That was in Shanghai already. When he probably shouldn't have gotten me that. He should have gotten food, rice or whatever. But I remember that. I mean, it's burned in my memory. So
your mom packed everything up. Do you remember what you were told about leaving?
We just had to leave. I don't think I was told anything. But my mother said when we got to China, I said, "It stinks here," in German. I don't like it. I want to go back on the ship. She said, "We can't." So for about a week, we stayed in some kind of, they called it a heim. It's like a home, where my father was in a dormitory and we were with the women and children. But then he found a room for us, And I think I told you, I thought everybody lived in one room for the next 8 years, because that's what we did. We had one room, my mom, dad, and me, and a dog. We always had a dog.
Really?
And that's what I thought. You lived in one room. I couldn't imagine living in a house like this. So
And
that's
the journey to get to Shanghai, how
that was, I mean, apparently it was very nice. The ship, we stopped in a few places. I don't,
the ship sailed from where?
from Italy, I think, because we went to Italy on a train, stopped there for a couple of days. Again, I don't remember any of that. But I remember from the time we got to China, I remember everything, because it was different, not nice. And I do remember. I was 3.5 by then, and I remember, because it was July, and so I was 3.5, and my memories from then are ingrained.
Yeah. What was the weather like when you got
It
there?
was hot. It was so hot and steamy. It was like muggy and smelly. I mean, I right away said I didn't like it there, and I wanted to go back to where I came from on the ship. And then I didn't like, the dormitory where we lived. And I did like, when my dad got the one room, that was better. But that's, like I said, I thought that's how people lived. That's how it was.
And when you first got there, what was that home, the dormitory like?
Yeah, I didn't like that either, because they were bunk beds. And so, my mom and I each had a bunk bed, and it was like lots of women and children. And then my dad was in another part of the building, and he didn't like it either. So he made sure he got us out of there, and we lived got us a place to live. And in that place, there were all white people, like Russians and, I don't know, French or whatever. And we lived in that place till Pearl Harbor. And then we had to move to the ghetto. And then we lived in a house where it was all Chinese people. So, I mean, that was a long way in between.
Right, right. Well,
But I mean, I'm just saying.
at what point did you know you were Jewish?
Well, I went to a British school, and when I was 5, I guess 5.5, and they taught us. I went to Hebrew school, and they let us know we were Jewish.
Was that the Kaduri school?
It was the Kaduri school. It's a nice school.
So that was the other students, was everybody Jewish there?
I think almost everybody was Jewish, and I think most of the teachers were Jewish, if I recall correctly. I still remember my kindergarten teacher. I loved her, Miss Manessa.
You remember her name?
I remember her name. She was so nice. Not all the teachers were that nice, but she was wonderful. But
an important.
yeah, I mean, I remember some teachers that weren't nice, but she was nice. And I remember the principal. She was nice. In fact, I saw her again in San Francisco many, many, many years later.
Really? Do you know what did your parents tell you about their Jewish customs from Germany?
You know what? They didn't tell me a lot. I mean, it just, we were all the same, you know, we had different friends and they didn't talk about it. You know, they did not know what was going on in Germany. They had no idea. I mean, they had lots of different friends, you know, Jewish friends, they had Gentile friends, but they didn't know what was going on in Germany because there was no communication. And my dad had been arrested a couple of times because they say he sold something without a license. Because my father was a salesman. He always sold something. He could sell you anything. And they said he sold this without a license. So he was in the Japanese jail, which I'm sure wasn't very pleasant. But, you know, people always helped him get out because, you know, it was just trumped up charges. But they never talked much about it. It's like they tried to protect me from things.
And did you have any idea that you left Germany because
No,
of your
not
religion?
till I got quite a bit older,
Yeah.
you know, when I was like 8 or 9 and started asking questions. And even then, they tried to protect me. And then, you know, when it was Pearl Harbor and then we were in the ghetto and then there was lots of bombs falling, I asked more questions and they couldn't get out of not answering because I asked my friends too. And they said, well, you know, none of us really knew what was going on. We knew there was a war in China because, you know, the Japanese bombed a lot, but then the Americans bombed too. So there was just lots of bombings going on
So moving from where you first lived in
in the
Shanghai,
nicer part.
how was that explained to you?
Well, that was explained because we knew it was you know, was Pearl Harbor was bombed and the Japanese were putting us in the ghetto. That, you know, they explained that.
Because the Japanese occupied
Yeah,
Shanghai.
the Japanese occupied. And, you know, we were and then the President Roosevelt declared war and we were in a world war. So that was, you know, I was old enough to understand that, obviously.
And the Japanese were the ones who forced you as Jews, as Germans,
As Jews. They didn't like the Jews either.
into the Hankyu ghetto.
Right. And if you wanted to get out of Hankyu, you had to get a special pass. And there was a guy in charge, a little Japanese guy called Mr. Goya. And if he didn't like how you looked, I mean, I didn't go to him, but business people who had to go to, you know, downtown, they got slapped. He slapped my uncle because he didn't like the way he looked. I mean, these are the stories I was told, and I'm sure they're true. But it was hard. It was hard living. It was hard to get food. I mean, you know, the food supply was hard. So.
Do you remember being hungry?
Yes. Also because I was a really fussy eater. I wouldn't eat this or that. And my father said, if you're not going to eat that, there isn't anything else. So, but I had my best friend in the house we lived at was a Chinese girl, and I spoke Chinese like a native. So we would trade food. She would like some of the food I hated that my mother made, and I would like some of the food her mom made. So we would go on the roof garden and trade food. I still have an autograph book that Sengo wrote in.
Really?
She was my best Chinese friend. And then I had my best friend Miriam, who was Jewish, who lived in the lane. They were lanes in China, and she lived up the lane from me. But everybody lived in the lane. There were Chinese and white Russians and a lot of Jewish people. I mean, because like I said, everybody had to move, you know, when after Pearl Harbor, after, you know, had to go.
What kind of food you eat or not like?
I like potatoes and I like vegetables. I still don't like meat very much. And I didn't like meat, even though we didn't have a lot of meat, but I didn't like the taste of meat. And I didn't like mushrooms, and my mom would make mushroom soup. I go, I'm not going to eat it. My dad said, that's all we have tonight. I go, well, then I'm not going to eat.
And how did she cook?
She had like this briquette stove, and then she had to put the briquettes on and lit it, and then she had to fan it. I mean, it just, when my sister and I talk about it, that because she used to tell my sister these stories, and this woman who came from a very privileged home, I just can't imagine how she did it. It's hard to believe. Because at home she had help doing everything. My mom was an amazing lady.
So she somehow made do, and this little briquette stove, was that, I mean, did you have a kitchen? You had one room?
We had the one room, and we didn't have a bathroom. It was, they came to get the stuff every day, it was like.
So tell us how that worked.
You know what? Again, I didn't know better. What did I know? I don't remember a flush toilet. And we had
buckets in
the honey bucket, and we had a big tub, and I got a bath once a week in that. I mean, now if I don't take a shower every day, I go, oh my God, I didn't take a shower today.
And the bath, how did you get hot water?
We didn't have hot water. She had to heat it with those in pots, and those was, that little stove. And she schlepped the water up in buckets, and we lived on the top floor. I mean, when I think about how she did everything, I mean, at the time I was a kid, I didn't think anything about it. Mom will do it. My mother will do, Mutti will do it. Mutti, I didn't think anything about it. But now I think about what she did, and she was amazing.
So you're saying she would carry the
buckets
of water
and
up?
Heat water and then put it in the big tub. And I don't even know how she got rid of it. I don't, because when you're a kid, you don't think about things. Your mother will do it. I mean, I've had to do things, and my kids don't think how I do it or how I will do it, or your mom, you're going to do things because that's what moms are supposed to do.
And she took care of everything.
She took care of everything. My dad went to work, and he didn't help her much. And my mom, it's a funny story, my mom killed the mice and the rats because my dad was afraid of them. And that's honestly a true story. He did not like them. He said, Ada, you do it, in German.
And so in the corner you had what you called the honey bucket, and that someone picked that up every
Yeah,
day?
you had to take it down. They didn't come up.
Yeah.
And that's how we lived. And you know what? I didn't think anything about it because we all lived like that. Well, I was telling you about my friend Bella. They had a little more money, so they lived in a more modern place. I think they had a real toilet and a bathtub, but they didn't have hot water. They also had to heat up the water. It's hard to believe that's how we lived for 8 years. But like I said, I didn't know any better. And so when we came here, I'm skipping something, but when we came here the first night, my mom we stayed at a hotel for a couple of weeks till we got a place to live. She gave me a bath in a real tub, and I screamed the whole time because I thought she was trying to kill me. I was afraid, washing my hair, and I screamed the whole time. And my father knocked on the door. He goes, "What are you doing to her?" And she said, "I'm trying to bathe her and wash her hair." And he said, "Well, hurry up. She's screaming so much, people are knocking on doors."
So it was so different.
Yeah, I'd never had a real bath that I remembered. Thought the woman was killing me.
So all the living conditions that you look back on now, at the time, you didn't think anything of that then.
I didn't. Well,
Mhm.
I didn't know any better. You know, it was just,
Mhm.
it was normal.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
you mentioned that you knew Chinese. You just
I did. My mom said when she heard the kids play, you couldn't distinguish my Chinese from the other kids. I was pretty fluent in Chinese.
And do you remember?
I remember swear words and some counting. Bella and I, when we talk to each other, we swear at each other sometimes in Chinese, but she doesn't remember anything either. It's like been over 70 years, it's more than that, almost 80. It's didn't keep it up. There was no reason to. And no, I have not been back to China. And
at the time, do you remember learning Chinese? Do you remember?
No, I learned it from playing with the children. I did not take Chinese lessons. And German was what they spoke at home. So my German was fluent. But when we came to America, I said, I don't want anything to do with the German language. And they would talk to me in German and I would answer in English.
So in school in Shanghai, what language?
We learned English. That was the Kadoorie school, and everything was English, but very British English. So when I came here, the first school I went to, the teacher told me that if I want to be American, I better learn to speak American, that my English was not American, it was British. Like, okay. So I came home crying to my mother, and they were afraid to go to school to complain about the teacher because, we're just new in America. And there was a rooming house. Again, we lived in one room at that point. And there were I didn't know they were gay, but there were a couple of gay guys there. And one of them went to school for my mother. And they complained about it. But we only lived there a few weeks, and then we moved into another place on, I think it was Fifth Avenue. And there I had my own room. I mean, it was an apartment. I had my own room. It was a whole room to me. So that was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents had a room and I had a room. And then my mom got pregnant with my sister. So then we had to share a room for a long time. But even that was okay.
Right. Not like living in one room total.
I know.
Yeah.
And
what else do you remember about living in Shanghai?
I remember it was dirty and smelly. And, there never was enough food. And that, but, as a kid, you still don't think it's horrible. I mean, because you don't know any better. I didn't remember the good times in Germany, obviously. And your parents try and make things better for you. I mean, they do the best they can. And what else?
So you made friends?
Yeah, I mean, like I still have friends, but most of them, after the war, everybody scattered. Like I told you about my friend Miriam, she lives in South America. People really scattered. Not everybody came to America. So most people came to America, but even then they went to New York or yeah, I don't know where. Like I know they wanted us to go to New York to the relatives, and my father said, "I'm not going there. We don't like those relatives." So we stayed here, but people went all over America. And when we didn't want to go to New York, the committee wanted us to go to, I don't know, I don't remember, someplace. And my mother goes, "No, my daughter won't meet a Jewish person there. We have to stay in San Francisco." I don't recall where they wanted us to go. A couple of places.
And
Yeah.
in Shanghai, um, do you remember if you observed
We
Jewish
did.
holidays?
We went to a temple. I don't remember the name of the temple, but I remember the rabbi was Rabbi Kantorovsky. I don't know why I remember that. I don't recall the name of the temple. And we did go to services. In fact, my friend Sandy and her husband went on a cruise, and they stopped in Shanghai, and she noticed, she saw our names on wherever this was, on some kind of plaque.
At the synagogue.
Right.
Ah.
So she goes, "You should go." I go, "No, thanks. Been there, done that. Not interested."
You weren't interested in going back?
No. Mm-mm. It wasn't a good life. So, and definitely not Germany. Now my older daughter, Janice, she and her husband are taking German lessons, and they've been to Austria, and they want to go to Germany. And I go, "Ugh, why?" I go, "Your father's going to turn over in his grave. Why are you going to Germany?" "Well, we loved Austria." I rolled my eyes, and we want to go to Germany. I go, and she goes, "And if Trump wins, we're going to leave the country." And I go, "And you're going to go where?" And she goes, "To the EU. I go, "What does that even mean?" And she said, "We just want to go out of the country if he wins." I go, "Okay, bye."
And you never were interested in going back to Germany?
Well, I'm going to be 88. Where am I going? I've been in 3 countries. I'm not going anywhere. No, no, I will never go back to Germany. They threw me out. Why would I go there? And they threw Herb out of Austria, and I wouldn't go there. And it's, you know what? It's not going to wouldn't be any better anywhere. I mean, I wouldn't want Trump to be president, but I mean, how am I going to go? I'm not going to go anywhere else.
Sure.
Stay my days here.
Yeah.
Still the best country in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
So back to Shanghai a bit. Your father.
He always worked. He always had a job working for somebody, selling cheese or selling milk or selling, this was during the war. I don't really remember all the things he sold. But when the war was over, he worked for the army. He drove people around. He drove Mrs. Chiang Kai-shek, and he drove for the army.
For whose army?
For the American army, but they had, so after the war, things were a little better. He had made more money, and he drove people around, for the army, generals or just regular people, and he could bring the car home, and he would give us rides.
Did he know English?
He spoke English with an accent. They never lost their accents, but he had a good command of the language.
Already in Shanghai.
Mm-hmm. I mean, neither he or my mom ever lost their accent, German accent.
Yeah. And your mom was such a big contrast in terms of her life and what she had to do. Did she complain about it? Was she?
No, I wondered about that. I mean, she didn't complain to me because I was a kid, but no. But when I think about it, it's like, from the way she was brought up as a child and then as a young woman, I mean, the contrast had to be enormous. But what was she going to do? Was she going to leave my dad, Harry, I keep saying Harry, but that's what he changed his name to when he came to America. I mean, was she going to leave us? I mean, she didn't know how to work. She didn't have a job. So she took care of us. So when I talk, I'm really close with my sister, and we talk about it, and we think, God, I mean, could we do that? No, I don't think I could have done that. I guess we couldn't do anything we have to do, but she's just amazing. She was amazing.
So, you mentioned in Shanghai, people started leaving, the people that you knew. When did you know the war was over? Did you experience the effects of the war at all?
I'm trying to think. There was like, something happened and they said the war was over, and all of a sudden the Japanese were always out with their bayonets and their guns. The guns were bigger than them because the Japanese are short like you and I. And all of a sudden the Japanese were gone. Okay, well, the war must be over. And so then we heard on some radio that the war was over in our area, not in Germany quite. It was still going on. And they had all these, things on the walls, where you could read things. And we found out what was going on in Germany because my parents and all the people in China did not know what was going on about concentration camps and all that. That was like a complete surprise because there was no communications, no letters or anything. And that was like, that had to have been horrible to find out about that. Again, I was a kid and I didn't really think about it that much, Okay, concentration camp, what is that? What did they do there? Yeah. But my parents were absolutely shocked about it.
So you knew they were upset?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, all the people were. It was like, how could this happen? And how could we have not known? But for 8 years, they had no clue this was going on.
And you mentioned the Japanese soldiers. Did you feel threatened as a child playing in the street?
They didn't threaten the kids. They threatened women and men, but as a child, I mean, even if I saw a soldier walk by, I didn't really feel they didn't do anything to kids. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I did not feel threatened. They looked threatening. I mean, when you see soldiers walk by with guns, it's kind of threatening, but they didn't really do anything to kids. But we had one large bombing that the Americans did where our school was not hit at all. Nobody got hurt, but the Japanese school, which was like, let's say 2 blocks away, like that just got the hell bombed out of it. And it was an accident. They didn't mean to do that. It just missed, they didn't have the equipment like today. And one of the places where poor, really, I mean, we were poor, but we had our own place to live, but they had it was called the Schaffenheim, and that place got really bombed.
What was that?
It was, a Schaffenheim was like where poor people live, poor Jewish people. And that got the heck bombed out of it. But it was a miscalculation. So, and then we had to stay till the bombing was over. And then they took us home in groups of like 8 or 10 to walk us home or walk us to a place where our parents could meet us. And we walked over some horrible sights like dead people or half dead people. And you know what? I still remember that. That was horrible. And then we walked to a place and I saw my mother and I ran to her and she hugged me, and but that was not a good one.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we had quite a few bombings.
You remember bombings?
Yeah, I do remember the bombings. We had a number of them. And I think I told you you could hear the difference between Japanese planes and American planes. The motors sounded different or whatever, the planes just sounded different.
And you knew.
I did. You could tell. And we always had blackouts. When you heard the planes, candles came out and you had to turn the light out, and it was always a blackout. It was not a good way to live when you were, even as a youngster, I knew that.
You knew it wasn't.
Yeah, I know. Are we going to make it this time when the bombs came? It was scary. I mean, as a child, I realized it was scary. I'd go to bed and hold on to my dog.
Oh, tell me about your dog.
Well, I had two dogs. I had a dog named Teddy who died, and then toward the end, before we left, last couple of years, I had a little dog named Peggy, and a little Pekingese, so cute. And I just would hold on to her, even though she didn't like it, she'd growl. And you know what? We had to put her down before we came to America because we didn't have enough money to bring her. Because when we came on a naval ship. That's how they brought us over. But we still didn't have enough money to bring her when we came to America. So we had to put this healthy dog down. And I have not had a dog since. I said I'll never have a dog again because that hurts to put a healthy dog down.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids thought I hated dogs, but I love dogs. I just didn't want to deal with putting a healthy dog down. There are a lot of things you learn about yourself.
So that stayed with you.
That stayed with me. And both my kids have dogs, and I love their dogs. But I don't want a dog for myself.
And the dog gave you some comfort.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love both my dogs that I had.
What other ways did you find that you or your family used to cope with a difficult situation?
Well, we had movies we went to. I went with my friend Miriam and even Sango because I don't think she understood Laurel and Hardy, but I guess she liked it. We would go to movies, and I know we went to friends' homes, just like people do here. And I don't know, what did we do? My father had friends when he worked, so this is before Pearl Harbor, he had these friends that had this beautiful, beautiful home, and I got to go there for 2 weeks. And they had a house. I remember this story. They had a houseboy, and I got to go there for 2 weeks and eat anything I wanted to eat. He made me toast every morning, and he cut the edges off. I mean, who does that? And then they had really good lunch and really good dinners, and oh my God. And then these poor people, when Pearl Harbor came, they lived in one room, and I would bring them a piece of candy when I got candy. It's a true story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They lost everything. Japanese took everything away from them. And then my parents knew these other people that had invited me for dinner, and my mother didn't want to be embarrassed, so she picked up food from wherever you pick food up from, and it was this horrible noodle soup. And I barfed when I ate it. I still don't like noodle soup. This was fat noodles. And I went to these people's home for dinner, and they had the best dinner. It was schnitzel and potatoes and green beans, which I still like. And it was so good. I told them my mom made me eat before I came. You know, kids, they say anything. And they said, why? Well, she didn't want to be embarrassed that I would eat too much. I told them the story. And they laughed. And these rich people ended up, you know, in the ghetto too. Like, didn't matter if you were rich or not. If when the war broke out, they all ended up in the ghetto. They lived in what was called the French Concession, this really nice neighborhood, which I figured I would like to live here too. This is nice. When I came home and told my mother about these beautiful homes, and she goes, yeah, you're not going to live there. I go, I know.
So you did see a little bit that there was
I knew
else.
the difference of where I lived and where they lived, and then could see what happened where they were going to live. You know, nothing stays the same.
Did your parents talk with you about the decision to go to America? Was it any decision? Was there any choice?
No, we never talked about going to America till the war ended. There were a lot of times my parents didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. I mean, they just completely broke. And the relatives in New York sometimes would send $5. A check would come, there'd be a knock on the door, and there'd be a mailman or whoever it was. I don't remember that. And there'd be a check for $5, and that would keep them going for another month. And my dad and I were always mad at the relatives because we could have not gone to China. We could have gone to America before, had they sent affidavits. But my mother was this angel of a lady, and she forgave everything, and she went to New York to see them. And we said, God. And they also came to visit us when we lived in San Francisco. And they asked my mother why I was so rude.
Really?
And my mother said she's a teenager. My mother knew why I was rude. And then they gave me a check for $10, and I never cashed it. I wrote something nasty on it and put it away in a drawer. And they said she never cashed the check, and my mom probably said I lost it or something. I told you I was a miserable teenager, or whatever, I don't know. I wasn't going to cash the check. At 16, I didn't need a check for $10. I was working. I did not like them. I was angry at them. But my mom was this angel. She forgave everything.
And
even my being nasty. And my dad wasn't pleasant to them either because they stayed with us. Yeah, it's just like.
But you never forgot that they didn't help.
No, I mean, we had 8 years of not a good life, a really bad life. And we could have gone to New York, or would have been better in New York. I mean, we would have been better off in America. And just because they didn't approve of him seriously. And then we met my mother's cousin, Paula, who lived in New York. Herb and I met her. We had gone to Disneyland, and then she came to meet us at the airport. And I was ready not to like her, but I adored her. And she was one of the poor cousins. And she said, I feel so bad. Uncle Louis, that's my mom's dad, sent us all to America, and we should have helped your family, your mom and your dad and you. and I'm so sorry about it. She admitted it. And I said, well, but you said you and your husband were not, you couldn't do it, but Aunt Lottie and Uncle whatever, Arthur could have done it. She goes, I know. But she told me the whole story. That's why I know the whole story. And Paula and I got to be really good friends. We went when she passed away. I took my mom, Herb and I, that's my husband. We took my mom to her funeral, to Florida so she could be with her while Paula died. And my mom was just running around outside because my dad had all died. She couldn't handle it. But Herb and I stayed with Paula because we both adored her. And funny how things happen. I never would have gone for Aunt Lottie, whom I hated, but I adored Aunt Paula.
So, tell me about when you left Shanghai. How was did your father arrange that? And
the Jewish committee arranged that. And again, we went on a U.S. ship, like a Navy ship. And my mom, women were in one place and men were in another place. Oh, and my God, the food was good. There was so much food because we weren't used to a lot of food. And it was so good. There was toast and butter and jam in the morning, and I got hot chocolate and orange juice. And it was just really good. And I don't remember what we had for lunch. And there were all my parents' friends were on there. So, I mean, I still remember all the people, and they would all buy me candy bars. Hershey bars were really in, and all my parents' friends bought me Hershey bars and stuff. And then
were friends of yours from
No,
Shanghai
I
also?
don't remember having friends of mine, the kids, but my parents' friends, and most of them are gone now. I mean, of course they are. They'd be really old, but they were all nice, and my parents stayed friends with most of them. And
What about
some of them made it really big. I mean, Harry Lewin and Warner, they were at the Fairmont Hotel. I don't know if you knew them. A lot of them had really good jobs. I mean, nobody wanted to, the committee always said, well, you stay here and you're going to be on your own and we're not going to help you. People didn't want help. They wanted to work. Jewish people are like that. We don't need your help. I mean, we want to work. Like when my dad stayed here, he said, you don't need to worry about us. I'm going to work.
and
He
was
worked
able
for an
to
Arab.
find work?
Worked for an Arab company for a couple of years. But, and he did okay.
And what about health-wise? Did your family stay healthy?
No, my mom wasn't healthy.
And what about in Shanghai? Were you able to get any medical care?
No, I think the only time I went to the doctor was when I had appendicitis and I needed my appendix out. And then I went in a rickshaw the only time where I went in a rickshaw. Told my mom I don't feel good, and she took my temperature, and I had a temperature. She thought I was trying to get out of school because school just started, how most moms are. And she goes, oh, yeah, you're really sick. So we went in a rickshaw and we went to the hospital, and I had to have my appendix out. I think that's the only time I was ever really, really sick. I mean, I was sick, obviously, but nothing serious. And I think I only went to the dentist once. God, I hated that dentist. He slapped me. I know, like, really? And that's the only time I went to the dentist. He pulled a tooth without anything, no anesthesia. And I told my mother, I'm not going to the dentist again ever. So I never went to a dentist till I came to America. And thank God my teeth were pretty good because we didn't eat candy. So, my teeth stayed pretty good. but nobody went to the doctor very much unless you were really sick. But then my mom's health wasn't good when she came here because she got pregnant, and my sister was a big baby and she didn't get a lot of health care, and she should have been a cesarean, but they didn't do that because they didn't have enough money. So she was a breech baby. She just had a hard time. And then later on, she had back surgeries and she had cancer. But she still lived to be in her late 70s. No, mom lived to be 90. What am I saying? My dad was sick. He had diabetes and he had his leg amputated. And they belonged to Kaiser, and I did not like Kaiser. And they didn't like me because I spoke up about everything, about their care. So, but no, their health wasn't good. Mom's was mediocre, but my dad he had lots of stuff going on with his health. He also didn't eat right. When he came here, he weighed 120 pounds. He was skinny. And then he got fat because the food was good. And then, like I said, he got diabetes.
Well, you went for a long time without
Right.
eating a lot. Yeah.
I know my mom was like 80 pounds when she got here, but she never got heavy. You know, she gained weight, obviously, but she never got fat. And I was 40 pounds when I got here as a 12-year-old. I was like tiny. But then, yeah, I gained weight, but I never got heavy. Like I said, I was always fussy eater. Still am. So.
But when you came here, what was that like, the immigrant experience?
Well, because they had so many friends, they didn't make a lot of friends with Americans right away. You know, they kept their immigrant friends, and they all spoke German all the time. And like I wanted to get away from it. I go, you need to speak English. So then when my sister was born and started, well, she was a little older already, I said, you need to speak English. She can't speak German. And you need to teach her English. So they tried to.
So how was it for you when you first went to school here?
Well, I went to that one school where the teacher didn't like my British accent, but that was only about 4 weeks or something. And then I went to Alamo School in San Francisco, and I had a nice teacher, and it was fine. She was nice. I learned to speak, I pretty much lost my accent, and I made friends right away. And, kids are nice. And I think.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, I made friends, and
no, that's good. Some
yeah,
immigrant children have a hard time.
I made
but
friends.
You knew English, so that.
Yeah, and I mean, because I spoke English, it was just had a bit of an accent, the British accent, which is still English. I don't know what that teacher's problem was. I don't think she liked immigrants. She didn't like maybe people coming to America. I too young to figure that one out. But, I liked school, and I wasn't the greatest student. I was lazy. But I started liking to read. And then I always had my face buried in a book. And then when my sister was born, I was pretty busy taking care of her. And then my sister said I was like, as she got old, I was like her second mother. Because by then my mom was working and I took care of my sister a lot.
So you would come home from school.
Right. And I helped with making dinner, and, I was kept pretty busy. And then I had my friends also from China, like I told you about Bella and Sylvia. We're like the Three Musketeers. We belonged to the Jewish Center, and we went to dances there. And one parent always took us, to something. So we
So
were.
did you go to the same school, or you would meet
We
at the
did
Jewish
not. We
Center?
all went to different schools. I think I went to Presidio, and I think they went to Roosevelt. Or Bella went to another school, because Bella lived in the Sunset District. So I don't know where she went, but Sylvia went to Roosevelt. So we all went to different schools, but we all got together because our parents got together. But Bella and Sylvia used to think I was a slave because I had to help more at home. I had to help cook dinner, and I had to do dishes, and I had to take care of my sister. So they called me a slave, and it made my mother angry because they didn't have to help. They didn't have siblings.
Did
And
it make you angry?
it made my mom angry. I didn't care. It's like it was what I had to do. And I loved my little sister. I liked taking care of her.
So tell me your sister's name.
Lucille. Well, no, Lucy. Don't call her Lucille. She'll get mad. She was named for Lucille Ball and my other grandmother, Dorothy. And she goes, "What a dumb name." So she's been Lucy for the last umpteen years. She
So
just
she
turned
was
75
so she was born after you
after we arrived.
came
Yeah.
to San Francisco, and so how much younger is
She's
she?
12 years younger, 12 and a half. We always celebrate our half birthday because she's July 12th and I'm January 12th. So we always send each other cards. Like I said, we're pretty close. We've had some bad times. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we've had our fights. But we're pretty good now. We're grown up. We're finally grown up.
And she still lives locally.
Yeah, she lives in Brentwood by the Delta. They lived in Belmont in an apartment, and then they bought a house in San Jose where they lived a long time. And now they live in Brentwood by the Delta. And they like it there. Her daughter lives there. Her sister-in-law lives there. Half their family lives there. She wanted me to move there. I go, yeah, I'm not moving. I like it here.
So, and you mentioned before at 16 you were working.
Yeah, I worked. My mother had a friend, Edith, who had a little store downtown, excuse me, that had hose and sweaters and purses, you'd call it a little boutique today. And she would give me a job every summer. So I would work for Edith, and I loved it. I was like clothes. And so I would work for her during winter vacation and summer. And it was fun. I enjoy people, and I like doing that. And then my mother would have to get a babysitter because I couldn't babysit Lucy. But I liked doing that. It was fun.
And what work was your mom doing at the time?
My mom was helping. My dad had a business, a furniture business, and he traveled, and she was in the store. It was on 9th Street by the Furniture Mart. So.
Do you remember experiencing any anti-Semitism?
I did. When I went to school at Alamo, a boy called me a dirty Jew. And I got so angry, I hit him, and we both got in trouble. Our parents had to come to school. And I go, I don't have to take that anymore. This is America. Yeah, nobody's going to call me that anymore. And the principal said, it's going to happen again. You don't have to take it, but you don't have to hit or kick anybody for that. You don't need to do that. You shouldn't do that. And I go, if you say so. I remember saying that, but he got in trouble more than I did. I said, this America, I don't have to take that.
That's what you told the.
Yeah, because we both, our parents had to show up.
Mhm.
And my mother said, you shouldn't be like that. You should just walk away. I go, how can you walk away? I'm not going to walk away from that. But I have walked away from things. I mean, as an adult, I can't go kick on somebody. But
Even if you might feel like it. Huh?
I know it's going to happen. I mean, it's happening all over again really badly, isn't it? I know I have a helper that drives me and takes me grocery shopping, and she's Mexican. And she said she and her husband are scared when things are like they are now, with Trump going to be president again, or when he was president. It scares them. I go, you're right to be scared. I mean, she's the nicest lady ever. I adore her. We've become good friends. And I go, you're right to be scared. I mean, because, they're immigrants. He apparently does not like immigrants. Very vocal about it.
And you know from your experience.
I know. But when she said that the other day when we were driving home, I said, you're right to be scared. I go, but would you go back to Mexico? And she goes, no, I don't want to go back to Mexico. We like it here. I go, well, then you stay here.
So you mentioned the Jewish committee helped you leave Shanghai?
Right.
Was that the Joint Distribution Committee?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then when you arrived,
they helped too.
They helped also.
Right.
Like the first
right.
few days to have a place to
Found
stay.
us a place to, live, and we, like I said, we stayed at a hotel for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. Went to dinner every night. We stayed at the Reffert Hotel. I don't know why I remember that. And we ate dinner almost every night at this place that looked like a ship. I can't remember the name of it. And I ate filet of sole every night, and I still love filet of sole. But I just can't remember the name. It was on Market Street, where the cable car is right there. But we ate there almost every night because I said, I want to go there. I like the food. And they weren't going to argue with me because they wanted me to eat. But I ate filet of sole almost every night with mashed potatoes, and that's still my favorite food to eat.
And that was somehow, somehow supplied.
Right. They paid. They gave my parents X number of dollars for, lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
What was the name of the hotel again?
The Rufford, something like that. That was a long time ago. My goodness.
And that was downtown?
It was downtown. And oh my God, we loved the Crystal Palace Market. I don't know if you were brought up here, if you grew up in San Francisco, but that was a great market. My first milkshake I ever had was from there. That was so good. And all the fruits that, when we came here, I mean, we hadn't seen anything like that when we came here. The grapes and the cherries and the oranges. And I still like all that.
Mm-hmm. So that was...
Oh my God, we looked at it. My mom bought it and brought it back to the hotel to eat. And the cherries gave me a stomach ache. And you know what? I'm still very careful eating cherries. They apparently don't like me. So I very seldom eat them, but I do like grapes and I'm a big fruit eater. But that was like, oh my God, that market was amazing.
So that was important help until you got on your feet.
Right.
And your father found a job.
Yeah, he did. He found a job working. He worked for Ramallah and Company See, that just came right out. That came out right.
Wow.
And he was a American, um, trying to say, he was from one of the, not African, he was Ramallah. What is that? It's, Leslie, where are you? He was an Arab. And people said, how can you work for an Arab? And my father goes, it's different. He's nice. I like him. And when I went to high school, I met his son, Rocky. And Rocky said, do you think our parents would mind if we went out? I go, hmm. And I told my dad I met Rocky Ramallah, and my father said, don't go out with him. And his father said the same thing. We can work together, but don't go out. That was many years later, but I thought it was funny. And we didn't go out. We just became friends. I thought it was interesting. We'll work, we can work, but don't go out. Not a good idea.
Only so far. Where did you go to high school?
I went to George Washington, graduated from there. I did not go to college. When I got out of high school, I was done. My mom was in the hospital when I graduated high school. One of her, whatever, I think her back at that time, one of her many illnesses. And then I went to work. Where did I go to work? I went to work at, what was my first job? I went to work at one of the insurance companies. And I don't recall which one right now. I don't remember. But I only worked there for a little while. And then I went to work for Bay Medical Group, which was at 450 Sutter. And my friend Daisy worked there.
And what kind of work did you do?
It was a receptionist. And we just talked about it the other day because we had Daisy's birthday party. And we talked about all the different people that worked there. And it was a fun job. It was, it was fun. We had a good time. And I worked there for a couple of years. And then I quit and went to work for H.G. Makelum, which was an automotive company, but I got paid a lot more money. And there I worked till I was 8 months pregnant with Janice. And then I didn't work anymore till my kids were teens.
And you said your mom was in the hospital after high school, so you thought you had to go right to work. Did you have other hopes or aspirations for something different? Or?
Did I want to go to college? I did not. I just wanted to go to work. I didn't really like school. It was just something I had to graduate, obviously, but I didn't love school. But I didn't want to go to college. At one time, I wanted to be a hairdresser, and my father said no. And if I really wanted to do it, I would have done it on my own. I had money saved. I could have gone to, school and done it, Marinello School or something and done it. But obviously, I didn't want to do it bad enough. So I did not do that. So I just worked. I worked, at the insurance company whose name I can't recall offhand. And then at the Bay Medical Group, which was a fun job. We had a good time because we were all friends. And then at the automotive company. And like I said, I never wanted to go to college. My husband went to college. My kids all went to college.
How did you meet your husband?
Pardon?
How did you meet your husband?
At the Jewish Center. We were just talking about that at the birthday party. We all met Daisy met Bernie at the Jewish Center. Bella met Howie at the Jewish Center. They got divorced, though. But we all met at the Jewish Center. At that time, that's how you met your husbands. My friend Phyllis met Art at the Jewish Center. It was a good place to meet.
So there were activities.
Right. They had, well, especially the Thursday night dance. They don't have that anymore. I know when they picked me up, Denise picked me up on Saturday. That's one of Daisy's daughters. And so she wanted to know all about Daisy when she was young. I go, your mom hasn't told you anything? She goes, no. And Kim was in the car too. That's the other daughter. So I was telling them some of the stories of when we were young. Because Daisy and I met at, like I said, we met at the center. And we were friends for many years. Well, we have been friends for many years. So she goes, my mom hasn't told us anything.
So you had a lot of good activities and really a social group.
I know. Well, we used to go on Thursday night and we used to go on Sunday. We went swimming, even though I didn't like swimming. And they had other activities. I don't recall what we did, but we used to go this. We were at the center 2 or 3 times a week. Just to have a good time.
Your husband, tell us your husband's name.
Herb. He was a soccer player. He was already a soccer player in England. And then when he came here, he played soccer for a Jewish team called Hakoah. And was a good team. He liked it. He loved playing soccer. So a lot of times on Sunday, I went to games, even though I didn't really understand a lot, but I went to the games. And he loved soccer. Big fan. He was a big fan, and he also loved playing. He played for years. And I think finally, when our kids were about, 2 and 5, I said, I think it's time you stop playing soccer, Herb. If you get hurt, who's going to support us? Not the team. They can't afford it. So he quit playing. And he took up bowling. And he was so athletic. He right away got a couple of trophies. And he said, it's really boring. I go, take up golf. So he did. And he played golf till he couldn't, until his Parkinson's got so bad. And he loved golf.
So your husband was also an immigrant?
Yes.
Also a survivor?
From Austria. Like I said, he came over on the kinder train. Didn't talk about it. Went to England by himself. He was 9. I don't know why he didn't talk about it. I never understood. He told me a little, but really not enough to tell you a story about it. He just said it was scary to go by yourself without your mom. His parents had already been divorced. And that's all I can really tell you about that. And then he got to England on his own and lived with a family. And he said that was okay. They were nice to him. And he right away started playing soccer because he was good, even at that age. And of course, he got called a dirty Jew and got even by kicking the person in soccer so you don't get in trouble. And then when they realized what a good player he was, they left him alone. That's what he told. That's the story he told me.
Yeah.
And his mom came about a year after he left. And then he got reunited with her, and that was good. And then his mom got remarried after a couple of years.
And they immigrated to San Francisco.
Yeah, no, his parents immigrated way before him. He stayed in England a couple of years after. I never understood why. That's just the way it was. I think he liked being in England. He loved England. He liked the Queen and the whole if I ever said anything about the Queen and the royal family, he got annoyed at me. He said he thought they were great. I go, okay, because I always thought it was a whole weird thing. He said, you don't understand. I go, okay. I
And
said,
what year did you get married?
we got married in 1956.
And you have children?
I have Janice, who's 62 now. It's hard to believe I have a daughter that old. And Leslie, who's 59.
And you have grandchildren?
Grandchildren, I have Cameron, who just turned 30. And I have Zach, who's 29. And Emma, who's 26.
As a young family, what was your Jewish custom and affiliation like? Was that something you had gone to these Jewish activities?
We always, from the time my kids were little, we belonged. When we lived in Westlake, we belonged to Temple Judea. And then when we moved out here, we belonged to Temple Bethel. Kids went to Sunday school till they were 16, and then they didn't want to go anymore. When they got there, 16 was the cutoff. And then Janice was going to go to Israel with Susan, one of her best friends. They were going to go to, for their, what do they call that? Their
confirmation.
When you can go to Israel for free, whatever that's called. But then they changed their minds. Neither of them wanted to go. So, and Leslie didn't want to go at all. At 16, she said, I've had enough. I don't want to go anymore. And but we went for high holy days. We always we were Shabbos Jews. But I mean, every holiday we had everybody over for dinner. Or if I didn't do it, my sister at that point did it. So we observed all the holidays. But none of my kids married into the faith, interestingly enough. And Janice got a divorce after about 3 years from her first husband. She now was her second husband a number of years, 10 years, I think. And Zach just got married this year. The others aren't married yet.
Did you talk much to your children or grandchildren, for that matter, about your experiences?
Yes, I have. And Emma, while she was, she knew she wanted to be a teacher. So she's had lots of where she had, I wish Leslie was in. Leslie?
We can bring her in later.
I wanted to ask her what that was called. She had these internships where she went to Hawaii, and another time she went to 2 or 3 times she went to Germany, and she worked at the base there, taking care of kids and stuff. And I had her so indoctrinated. She hated Germany. I said, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. She goes, no, that's okay. But I really did not like Germany. And even more so, I hated the German language. I said, wow, I've really done a job on you, haven't I? It's interesting.
That is interesting.
And Cameron he says he's an agnostic, but he wears a Jewish star. He lights the candles for Hanukkah. I go, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I said, I didn't even light the candles for Hanukkah this time. I go, I'm all alone. I go, I didn't want to do it. I go, that just doesn't make sense. He goes, why? And he went to Israel on his childbirth. Is that what they call it?
Birthright.
Birthright. I'm sorry, I knew it wasn't right. Birthright. And he loved it. He really can't wait to go back. And he was actually offered a job in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And I'm so glad he's not there right now. I keep thanking my lucky stars. I told him that. And he goes, I know. I'm glad I'm not there right now either. He said, but I do want to go back. When things calm down there, I would love to go back. Loves Tel Aviv. He said he'd like to live there for a couple of years.
Are there other ways in which your Holocaust experiences have affected your Jewish identity?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Are there ways in which your Holocaust experiences have affected your Jewish identity?
Well, it has, because I feel very strong about never going to Germany. I don't like Germans when I meet them. I immediately get my back up. I mean, I can't help it. I think every German is, I think they're all anti-Semitic. And I know that's not true. Down deep, I know that's not true. But I think they can't wait for all the old people to die so they don't have to send us money anymore. You know, we talked about that on Saturday, Daisy, Bella, and I. They're going to be glad when we're gone. And we get quite a bit of money.
You've been able to get some restitution?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be glad when we're gone. And we all agree on that, the three of us.
Interesting. What are some of the other ways in which your experiences have impacted your life?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are some of the lessons that you've learned from the experiences of being thrown out of your home and living
Not
under
to take
war?
things for granted
Mm-hmm.
and hope it just never happens again. But I know, it's happened all over the world again, and I think it's going to happen again. Just it's a. I think we're living in a scary world. I don't think it's ever been as scary as it's been the last year or so. And what's going on in Israel, I just know that the Jews are going to be blamed. Never mind Hamas, that they're horrible, but the Jews are going to be blamed for everything. I hear it all around. Sometimes you just listen to people talking, and it's always the Jews' fault, which is annoying. And it really upsets me, but you don't want to get into other people's conversations. But I know my friends and I all think that. And, the Israelis are tough. They're just not going to take anything. And some of the stuff they're doing maybe isn't right. I get that. But what was done to them wasn't good either.
What are you most worried about right now?
I worry about that we're going to have a third world war in the next year or two. I really do worry about that. Not for me. I mean, I'm not going to be around that long. I worry about my family. That's what I really worry about. I think the world is scarier right now than it's been in a long, long time.
And what do you want to tell your family or young people for the future?
Well, I think Cameron sees it because I talk to Cameron a lot. I don't know if Emma and Zach or Summer, that's his wife, see it. They're living in La La Land. They just got married. They're happy. I'm not sure they really see it. I think the only one who sees things are really tough right now is Cameron. And he's going to leave for Maryland because he's going to work for the NSA. I go, great. I go, wonder what you're going to hear working for them. But I think, people didn't see how things were, how bad things were before World War II. And maybe I see things differently. I'm not sure. This is my opinion. And when, my two friends and I got together, we all feel this.
What advice do you have for us, knowing what you've experienced in terms of coping with these difficult
Go vote the right way. That's what we were talking about. Have people vote and vote right. I mean, it's hard to believe that this man who's a psychopath got 50% of the vote in this country. That's shocking. It's like Hitler.
People should use
and that's scary.
In that way. Yeah.
And, and then, like what my mother said, they didn't believe any of this either. So it seems like it's all coming back.
That's what it feels like now.
So and I just listened to her stories, and it seems like I'm kind of reliving it.
Is there anything else about your story that you want to add that we didn't cover?
I can't think of anything. I think I told you most of it. I think when we lived in China, in the lane after the ghetto, we had a house of prostitution in the front. That's where the rich people went. And I did not know what a house of prostitution was. We just wondered why the richest came there was the pretty young girls. And then we had a house of prostitution in the back, like in an open field. And so we climbed up this window we had and looked out. And we asked Miriam's mom, well, what are they doing out there? And she said, oh, they're just taking the lice off each other. And we said, oh, okay. We were satisfied. It was an answer. And all three of us, Senga, Miriam, and I, were up those, narrow stairs. It's okay. I mean, what do we know? I guess we were about 9 or 10, satisfied us. But the rickshaw didn't go. We never saw a rickshaw go in the back. I mean, in the field. But it satisfied our needs for that day.
And you only found out much later.
Much later. I know my mother told me that's not what she said what it was, and I still didn't quite understand. I think I had to be older to really get what that was. But I mean, it was an interesting way of growing up. And another time, my mom, there were in each part of the lane, there was like this big heap where you put garbage, where I guess they picked it up once a week or something. And my mother had this pretty dish still from Germany. It was a flowered pottery dish or whatever, porcelain. And it broke and she threw it away. And we were all playing, and all of a sudden I noticed a doll on there that was moving. And I called her. I go, Mommy, Mommy. And, she came down. I go, there's a doll on your dish that's moving. And it was a fetus. Well, I didn't know anything about a fetus. So she said, don't look at it. She took a a towel or something and threw it on. This is how I grew up. I mean, what the heck did I know about a fetus? I just thought there was a doll on our dish that was moving. We all did, all three of us did. We all kept staring at it. And thank God we didn't touch it. I don't think we did. I'm sure we didn't. But that's how I grew up. These are just little things that, I remember.
These memories.
So.
But you took it all in your stride.
Right. Well, there was, what are you going to do?
What helped you to build a life after you came here and got settled as an adult? What helped you to see a positive future?
Well, you had friends and you worked. And, I lived at home till I got married, even though I kept threatening I was going to move out. Because my father and I, by that time, were always at each other's throats because I had a big mouth and he had a big mouth, and we argued all the time. At one time, I got mad, packed my suitcase, and went to Daisy's house for about a week. And then her mom threw me out. She said, "You go home now. It's time for you to go home." And then, I got married at 20, 21. Got married young. I mean, for what's happening today, kids get married late. Both my daughters got married much older. And Emma's, I think, 26 and not married. And Zach just got married at 29, and Summer's 29. I think my generation got married much younger. And I thought I was an old maid because both Bella and Sylvia got married at 18. So at 21, I thought, oh my God, I'm an old maid. I better get married and get out of the house. So.
But you did, and you built this life together.
And I liked being married. Herb's mother did not like me. For whatever reason, I don't know why. She didn't like me till we were married about maybe 45 years, and I am not kidding you. And then she said, "I think Herb did really well." I go, "Oh my God, seriously?" And then she liked me because by that time she lived out here and she always had some kind of pain. And then I always took her to the doctors and took her to lunch and got her coffee. And after all that time, she decided that Herb did a good job by picking me. And I go, "Good." I told Herb, "Your mom's really weird." I know my parents liked Herb right away, but it took her 40 some years to approve of me. But she loved her grandchildren, so that was good. She loved Janice and Leslie.
You think your attitude of kind of go-getting, that helped you to push through?
Maybe. I think I'm kind of tough. I mean, I don't let things get to me that much. I don't run to the doctor for every little thing I have. I mean, I didn't even go to the doctor when I was having a heart attack. I'm not too smart. I get that. I should have gone before I went. Well, I guess it wasn't my time to die. But my friend Phyllis goes to the doctor like when she sneezes or has gas. I mean, she really does. I ask her, "Why do you go to the doctor all the time?" She goes, "I'm 92. I want to live to 100. I go, "Okay. I guess that's okay." I mean, she was going today because she has a cold, and she's going to have the nose thing with I go, "Do it at home. You have tests at home." No, I only have one left. I want to keep it. I go, God.
So, do you have any last words for us in terms of takeaway from hearing your life story and appreciating what you've been through and not taking anything for granted since then. Any last thing you want to add?
No, not really. I'm just, like I said, I think you have to vote. I think to me that's just so. I'm sorry. I'm touching this. You have to vote. I mean, whoever you're going to vote for, that's up to you. But people have to vote. It's just so important. And I don't know what else to say. I hope nobody has to live the life I led. I mean, I didn't realize it was horrible when I was living it, obviously, because I thought that's what it was. But since then, I've had a pretty good life. That's all I can say. Since I've been here, my life's been really good. This country's been good to me. And I wouldn't want to leave. I just can't believe my daughter would want to leave. She's crazy. That's all I can say.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me.
Get a few photos on after, but
Okay.
I want to thank you very much.
So this was my grandmother. Her name was Alma Levy. I never knew her, obviously. And that's really all I know about her.
And this would have been taken where?
It would have been taken in Germany long time ago, because she died when she was in her 50s. And she, her and my grandfather got divorced when they were still young. And she died, and she got breast cancer, and I think she died when she was like 51 or something, if I recall correctly. I think she was really a pretty lady.
It's quite a glamorous
Yeah,
photo.
it is. I love the outfit. But I think my mom was 9 when they got divorced, which in those days I think was unusual.
And you said their family was well-to-do, which is...
Her father was. I don't know that her mom was. And her mom asked if she would want to live with her, and she said, no, I'm picking pick the dad, because she said her mom was flighty. Both the brother and her picked the dad to live with. Is that when I was a little girl?
You were a little girl?
So I must have been about 3 or 2, maybe 3. That's before we left Germany. And I don't remember it. I don't remember the doll or anything about it. I remember seeing it before, obviously, but I don't remember anything much about it at all.
But so it was a formal picture taken in Breslau
before we left Germany. And I guess I must have had a doll. That's my mom and dad when they got married in Germany.
And do you remember what year that was?
It probably was 1938. Okay. It was July 1938, I believe.
In Breslau.
In Breslau. And that was their 50th anniversary. And we celebrated at Salvatore's, the whole family, in San Carlos.
San Carlos, California, and that's your parents again?
Yeah, my parents.
Repeat their names?
Right. Ada and Harry Gerstel. Okay, that's Karl Heinz Löwy, and he was my mother's brother, Ada's brother. And he passed away in Germany after the war. And I knew him, but I don't remember him. I think last time I saw him, I was 3.
And he was also picked up on Kristallnacht?
Yeah, he was. And when he got out, he went to England. And then he went back, after the war, he went back to Germany. And there he passed away. And apparently he was never the same. His mind kind of snapped. It's just sad. He was supposedly a very smart guy. And that's really all I know about him. That's my junior high graduation. See, where the girls had to wear middies and the boys could wear whatever they wanted. That's how it was in those days. And we didn't think anything about it. I didn't even think anything about it till we just looked at it.
And what school was that?
That was Presidio Junior High in San Francisco.
And you said you are the third from the right.
Right.
Bottom row. Yeah.
And I've seen, I mean, I got together with some of the kids over the years, a couple of the boys. Leroy was one of my Art's brother. And so we had, we went together, we did some stuff together, like 50th high school reunion, actually. In the meantime, he's passed, but so I've seen some of the people over the years. It's a picture where I got dressed up for some reason, and I don't recall why. I don't know where I was going, that I got all gussied up. Maybe a party at Herb's office. They had quite a few parties at his office. I don't recall.
Well,
I kind of remember the dress, but I don't know why I was all dressed up.
But it's really typical of the 60s.
Right.
The dress and
You
the
got dressed
hairdo.
up, had the hair done. We're much more casual today. Today I would probably go to a party like this.
Yeah, the photo says 1968.
68, right. But I have no idea what it was. And I like today much better. I mean, I like getting dressed up in those days. I guess we all did. Herb always wore a suit. But, we have lots of pictures of when we went on cruises and things where, you had to wear the tux and the women wore a nice dress. And now I haven't been on a cruise in ages. Now my sister tells me you don't have to wear a tux and you don't have to get all dressed up anymore. They love cruises, my sister and her husband. Okay, that's Herb and me getting married in 1956. And we had a small wedding. I had a choice of having a rather small wedding. It actually was at the Fairmont Hotel, which probably still cost them a lot of money. We had about 20 people, but I could get all the furniture I needed for bedroom and a living room and the kitchen. So I opted for the furniture because we were really poor when we got married, Herb and I. So we picked the furniture and the small wedding.
And it seems nice. Like you're always practical.
I was always practical. I'm still practical. And it was nice. Got married at Temple, Rabbi White. I can't remember the name of the temple. Temple
Sheriff Israel?
Yeah, I think on 14th Avenue. Temple, yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't like that rabbi. I don't know why. I just didn't like him.
You
But
got
that's
married
where we
there
got
and
married, and
had the party at the Fairmont in San Francisco.
yeah, I know. And that was very nice. And my little sister, who was like about 10 at the time, finished everybody's champagne and got drunker than a skunk. I go, why did you do that? She goes, well, I had the first glass and tasted good. So then I decided I'll have all the others. And I didn't want you to get married. I didn't like Herb. And I didn't want you to leave. So she was crying when I left. Oh my goodness. She did not want me to get married. So, but she was drunk for the first time at 10 and many times after. Oh yeah, this is Herb and me going on a surprise cruise for his 50th birthday. And it was really a lot of fun. And our friends Art and Phyllis came with us. They joined us. And a good time was had by all.
Do you want to say a year for this?
I guess it was 1979. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
But around that time.
Yeah. That's Herb's mom and dad. That's Gerda and Mark Schnitt. And I'm not sure where that was taken. It's either in England, but I have a feeling it's at Golden Gate Park.
And she was with you for a long time.
Yeah, she was. She died at about 80 something. And Mark passed away a little before that, maybe about 5 years. And he had Alzheimer's by then. So she was alone for a while. And then she moved to San Carlos. She had a condo there, beautiful condo. She didn't really like it. She wished she still lived in San Francisco because it was easier to get around, but she got used to it. Because when she lived in San Carlos, I could take her places because I was driving then. I could take her to the doctor. And
so she moved here to be close to
yeah,
you and her.
because she didn't have anybody in the city. So, and she still liked to cook and do stuff when she was here. Yeah, it wasn't.
Gosh, that was it. It was Hanukkah, I think, at Janice's house. But it's just a picture of the women. Denise isn't in it, but your sister and your daughters and your granddaughter.
And
you don't really have to say.
Who is it? It's Denise?
No, it's you, Lucy, me, and Janice.
Oh, okay.
And you. Yeah.
And the important one is that
Lucy.
Your sister Lucy.
Okay, that's a picture of my sister. And my niece. Is my niece in it? And Leslie and Janice. And I guess it was Hanukkah, Leslie said. I don't recall.
And Lucy's
on the right side. Yeah. Okay, those are my, it's my husband and Leslie and myself and the grandchildren. And it's quite faded. I don't know why, but and I don't know where that was. I think at a park maybe. And I don't know when that was taken because I think the kids are pretty young.
But it's the whole family.
It's the whole family, right?
Your kids and grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Your 2 daughters.
That's Leslie and Ken and Janice and Wes in Izou, France. I don't know what year that was, but they were there for the dedication, something for Georgie. But I don't know the year. At least that was a few years ago. This is me and my grandchildren at Thanksgiving. A year ago, I'm told. And
tell us their names again.
It's Cameron and Emma and Zach. And
So,
I guess we had a good time.
yeah. And we'll,
I always go to Leslie's on Thanksgiving. Ken makes a good dinner.
and we'll end on that note of
Oh,
the
okay.
future generations.
Okay. That sounds good.